I give away free Steam games with every major video I do, and here's who won this week. The games available to receive are listed below. To enter, just leave a comment and have contact information on your profile. And now, on with the video. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week, on the chopping block. This week I went back and played the original Half-Life. Valve has been celebrating the 25th anniversary of its release, and in the celebration they made it free for people to own for a small window of time, along with putting in more content, adding improvements to the engine, and even releasing a decently long documentary about its development and progress. And, considering I'd never played the original Half-Life back in the day, I figured this was a good time to go back and visit the roots of some of the games that I enjoy so much. Well, I tell a small lie. I did play Half-Life back in the day, but it was on the PS2 version. I remember beating it, but I also remember not necessarily being all that blown away by it. Initial thoughts led me to believing that this might have been the choice of platform. I think it's fair to say that shooters designed for consoles and shooters designed for PCs are two rather distinct kinds of shooter. I touched on this when I reviewed Team Fortress 2 on the PlayStation 3 back in the day, but to paraphrase, console shooters seem to favor a more stop-and-pop style, whereas by comparison, PC shooters are more designed for a seamless union of movement and combat. That being said, I also thought it would be good to experience the original Half-Life the way Gaben intended. Keeping that in mind, and having widely expanded my experience and horizons since my PS2 was my primary gaming machine, I went into Half-Life with more of a mindset of someone like that about to experience something for the first time, while also taking special care to notice small details and touches that we take for granted today but were innovative and earth-shaking at the time. And one doesn't have to wait long for that. With the interactive and fully animated opening that serves as storytelling for the environment and the character of the player as Gordon Freeman. Most anyone who knows video games knows the story of Half-Life at this point. Gordon Freeman is a scientist who shows up to work, runs some experiments, things go sideways in an instant, portals to other dimensions are opened up, the military shows up to intervene and scrub any evidence of what was taking place, and it's up to Mr. Freeman and his supersuit to fight all of it. One thing I think that stands up fairly well to the test of time is the early game's pacing. What Valve did was incorporated narrative details or path of progression interactive game set pieces that either took place around you or directly involved you as a player and responded to you dynamically. Again, a feature we now take for granted, but something that was immensely difficult and rare back in the day. The reason so many people remember the sequences like that of the test chamber or the tentacle tower are the way they played out while simultaneously communicating objectives, story, or hazard while the player participated. As for the combat, the gunplay is still satisfying and visceral, from the tiny details of animation to the punchy audio of gunfire. The early game also paces out your weapon acquisition so that you're constantly expanding your means of damage dealing and tactics. Saying that the early game is extremely good is also not a surprise, given that back in the day, a lot of games did distribution where they give the first parts of the game away for free or in package deals with the hopes that you'd buy the rest of it later. Now you might wonder why I'm emphasizing so much that the start of Half-Life is so good. Well, we'll work our way around to that, kind of like how Gordon has to work his way around the Black Mesa complex. Actually, on that note, that is kind of one of the first things I take issue with. I'll admit that I've never worked in any expansive compounds or massive research facilities, but I have trouble really getting immersed in the environment just because Black Mesa seems to be way too unwieldy of a location to be any degree of viable. I feel like it's more laid out for the sake of facilitating gameplay than making it seem like a real facility with safety regulations or logistically viable layouts, and you cannot tell me with a straight face that a bunch of these spindly scientists are jogging 2 miles and climbing 40-foot ladders on a daily basis. Although it does make combat more interesting given that you're constantly having to worry about things like headcrabs falling through drop ceilings or aliens spawning next to the office coffee maker. However, though I once again note my praise of the combat when it comes to fighting interdimensional beings, when you start taking on the military, in my experience anyways, I found things starting to grind at my patience. Having foot soldiers with different tactics and weaponry definitely mixed up the gameplay, but along with their introduction came levels that I felt began to spread thin on those key set-piece moments, and other times things came to a grinding halt, particularly when armored combat vehicles were in play, because I needed to dispatch them, often while lacking certain weapons or ammunitions that would have gone a long ways to keeping the pace up. I also couldn't help but experience significant degrees of frustration when it came time to navigate the infamous minefields, or suddenly start taking heavy damage from sniper nests. Now, I need to take a moment to clarify something. While I've never played the PC version for myself, I am familiar enough with Half-Life to know about the infamous Zen levels at the end. However, I have no such feedback for the PC version at this time because I didn't get to them. You see, I have something of a policy where if I am finding myself in a state where I'm forcing myself to play and I would otherwise genuinely not want to play the game anymore, then I stop right there and consolidate my experiences to form my opinion. And much to my surprise, that happened with the original Half-Life. Nearing the end of one of the final military compound areas, I got bogged down dispatching some of the same enemies over and over, usually being run dangerously low on health or ammo in the process, and I just wasn't having fun anymore. Part of this I think might be due to the fact that the environments become a lot more indistinct with the game putting more of an emphasis on the combat, but given that the tactics don't really change up that much once you figure out everyone's roles, then it becomes a rather repetitive game of whack-a-mole for me. As I type this review, I can't help but keep second-guessing myself. Am I playing it wrong? Is there something I'm failing to grasp? Am I not using quick save enough? But at the end of the day, I'm stuck with the insurmountable fact that I'm not having fun playing it, and I don't want to play it anymore, and I'm not going to change my opinion just because I think it might irk someone. I feel this is a rather objective stance though, because I have no attachment to the game, so there's no matter of nostalgia keep me willing to play like I would with the original Pokemon titles or something similar where their design issues pop up. Yes, as much as I'm surprised to say it myself, I don't think I care for the original Half-Life. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely appreciate its role in gaming history and design, but let's not forget that there's been 25 years of game design fundamental adjustments and improvements. And not everything is bad about Half-Life. Let's not forget that the start of this video was almost explicitly praising it after giving the introductory context. It's just that with all the improvements we've had over the years, I've now become spoiled by those improvements, and I think that the middle portion of the game unfortunately outstays its welcome. As a keystone of gaming history, I find things that I like about Half-Life, and I can absolutely appreciate Valve for this opportunity to reflect on their achievements of the past, and giving support to a game that still has numerous fans, most of which I hope are well-adjusted enough that they aren't going to send a pipe bomb to my mailbox. However, while having many redeeming aspects, I don't think I'll care to revisit this one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go double-check my life insurance policy.
Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.